Wilma Rodrigues. Welcome to Sustainability Next Dialogue series. Happy to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you, Benedict, and to Sustainability Next.
Yeah, you've been an old friend. We've known each other for quite some time, but I think this is the first time we are doing a formal interview, and I'm sure we are going to enjoy it. Cool. This is a long story of yours. Uh, to begin with, I should say congratulations on your 10th anniversary, which you celebrated recently. But I think your experience goes much further. I think you started in 2001, and it's kind of a slightly more than a 20-year anniversary, I must say, in your overall
Yes.
experience in this waste management sector. Wilma, you're a pioneer in waste management sector in India. You've really gone through, uh, to use the word literally, from dirt to where you are now, managing dirt uh, to making it profitable. So, my first question to you is from an activist to a social entrepreneur. Just take us through that journey of yours in a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all that, for the nice introduction. And, I really don't like the word activist because I believe that, if I mean, obviously, there is a need for people to be out there and to get the message across. But for us and for me, it is always being about change happening through really being on the ground and in a positive manner, bringing about what needs to be done. So when I look at myself, 20 years ago, 2001, the municipal solid waste rules were just in, and this was the trigger for us to begin our journey, understanding waste and putting sense into what needs to be done. So as a not-for-profit, and we registered as a not-for-profit in 2001, because really that was, the intervention that was kind of the norm for working with waste. But very quickly learned that there are limitations in doing campaigns. There are limitations around awareness, which is the focus of what NGOs normally are involved with. And even the NGO Saahas at that time went beyond campaigns. We looked at really setting in place solutions around waste management, whether it was community composting, whether it was setting a channel for collection of difficult waste streams like Tetra Pak or plastic. But there is also that fine line that comes in between working as a not-for-profit, where people take advantage of the fact that here is somebody who they believe is doing good. Sorry for that. Yeah. So here, as not-for-profits, that doing good really comes in the way, because then there is people taking advantage of that situation. And really, waste management needs a full-fledged system, a system where everybody takes responsibility for the waste that is generated, whether it is the corporate sector, whether it is households, whether it is government implementing solutions. Everybody has a role to play. And that's the reason why we actually had then the second entity of Saahas come up as a social enterprise with a business model. Because in a business model, you can have continuity, you can set a system, and you can be responsible. Everybody takes responsible.
Yeah. So the transition from NGO, not for profit, to a for profit. Uh, yeah, it's not just a change in the paperwork. I'm sure it's also a change in the mindset of the organization that you have built. So, is it completely a new setup, or you people from NGO have moved into this for profit?
Yeah, so actually what happened was that there were a few people like Shobha, who has been with us now for the last 10 years. She joined the NGO. She's now the CEO of Saahas Zero Waste, and she actually joined us as part of the not-for-profit, and then moved to the for-profit along with myself, along with Kanika, who's now leading our finance. So there were a few of us that did move, but at the same time, there were, people at the NGO who stayed back. And then we had a CEO at the NGO. First there was Babita, and then Divya, and then they grew the NGO. And today you have Archana, who's a CEO of the NGO Saahas. So we built really two teams. It is easier because our common objective is resource recovery and zero waste systems. But the objectives are the same, but the way the two organizations are working is quite different, because we work on revenues, a typical business model, revenues from waste, revenues from a service fee, get customers to pay us the service fee. Whereas the NGO does have community as the base at which it works. There are grants that it gets from different organizations, foundations, as well as the CSR monies. So there are two entities, common objectives, but definitely we work quite differently.
So it's 10 years now since you're experimenting with this business model. What's your experience in today? I mean, and what are the learnings for you?
Yeah, so the biggest learning is that actually you do need a business model for holistic waste management, and if we have to solve the situation with respect to waste. Unfortunately, currently we do have both government as well as the corporate sector, as well as the generators of waste who are kind of not understanding waste management. There is still the mindset of disposal. There is still the mindset of, I can put my waste out and it will go somewhere, and it's not my responsibility. So that mindset needs to change. Although today you have regulations which talk about that waste not going to a landfill, not going resource recovery, circular economy. These are all the terminologies that are there to act as guiding lights for us to actually follow best practices in waste management. But bringing it on the ground is not happening. And I would say that the corporate sector.
Let me stop you there for a second. So the phrase that caught my attention the best at the book launch of Naga's book, Friend Back to Bharat, was that you said, own your waste. That really captures the behavioral change which you are trying to bring about among the citizens. Just elaborate on that. Own your waste as a clarion call of Saahas or the waste management sector.
Yeah, so own your waste is applicable both to the organization, that is Saahas Zero Waste, as much to the generator. So today, when you look at the waste generator, and in the mindset of being of disposal, you will not take responsibility for your waste, and you will just put it out and not look at where it's going thereafter. Now, even as a private limited offering a business model in waste management services, we are owning the waste of our customers. So our customers therefore expect us, and this is a niche customer segment that we are now catering to, because there is this alignment of owning your waste. We own the waste of our customers, and in doing that, we track and trace the waste and make sure that there is an end destination and there is 96% resource recovery, and the people working with waste are benefiting with a livelihood and with full responsibility of everybody. So today, even the livelihood aspect, we definitely need to make sure that people are paid not just minimum wages, living wages, and they can have a better livelihood. So all of that comes under that umbrella of owning your waste.
Yeah, excellent point. So you've being in Bangalore, and with you who's quite communicative and as a public person, you've been able to convince a lot of the MNCs in Bangalore to be part of your B2B service, including State Bank of India and IIM Bangalore. Uh, what has been your experience in getting them as part of your partners, and where is the potential? The potential must be really big.
Yeah, so the potential is huge because in an urban situation, you have 40% of the waste being generated by these large campuses, the bulk generators. So the tech
Hmm,
parks in
hmm.
Bangalore, the educational institutions, the large villa and apartment complexes, all these are bulk generators. So imagine the potential of 40% of Bangalore's waste, Chennai, Hyderabad, any city,
Mm, mm.
and regulations that actually mandate that these bulk generators don't have a disposal but a proper resource recovery system. But so the potential is huge, but we still operate in a very niche segment. We still manage about just 100 tons of waste per day across India. And so, therefore, there is a huge potential, but that potential can only be realized if more people own their waste.
So, in let's say in Bangalore itself, how many Saahas are needed to manage even at least half the waste?
So we would really want to see far more organizations, especially startups, work in this fashion of resource recovery. And even I think 50 organizations, 50 to 100 organizations may not be enough, because that's the beauty of decentralized waste systems and maximum resource recovery, that you can really go deep. You can go you can actually have a very a good system for livelihood and for destinations for waste. And you don't need to grow into this large organization. So I think most of us would want, I mean, those organizations like us who are wanting to solve the problem would want to see many more organizations, the smaller organizations, really going deep. And you do have them. You have enterprises that are running informally currently all across India, the small enterprises running informally just because they cannot get the mandate of people to actually respect these kind of services. So I would say easily about 100 organizations can exist if we are just managing 100 tons per day across India today. So, and India generates 62 million tons of waste per year, or
Wow.
you can say 1.5 lakhs tons per day is what India generates.
So, do you see your role as kind of a mentor in the space now to uh, mentor to these organizations, and do they reach out?
So we have a program called social inclusion. When I say program, it's again a part of our business vertical under the extended producer responsibility. And social inclusion is mentoring entrepreneurs, both from the formal sector as well as the informal sector, to actually mirror the kind of work that we have been doing: tracking,
Mhm.
tracing waste, going to end destinations, making sure there is the right price that you get for the recycling material that is delivered, service fee. All of that is what we are doing under social inclusion. So we hope that we will have many more entrepreneurs with the kind of intensity of operations that we've been attempting to do over these years.
Yeah. So, you used a very uh, interesting phrase called regenerative economy. So, I think India has huge potential in regenerative system. I think easily 10% of its GDP can come from its waste if it's managed well. So, tell us a bit about what you think about India's potential in regenerative economy.
Yeah, so regenerative economy, where you're putting things back to nature.
Yeah.
Nature has actually the world economy, 50% of the world economy is actually coming from nature, and we don't seem to realize that.
Mm.
So, in waste management, I mean, if India is generating 62 million tons per year and about 50% of it is organic in nature. So, you have 50% of waste, which we can really convert into beautiful, healthy, rich soils, which need to go back so that we can grow more food and we can have the healthy soil that we all need. And if you have to do it properly, then you need that decentralized system. So you need to have equipment for composting. You need to have space for composting. You need to have people to manage that composting. So imagine, what we could be if we would take this seriously. And then, of course, you have the other waste, which is packaging waste, which is paper, plastic, all of that. Paper recycling, can again, it's a very good livelihood opportunity. Plastic, we need to have industry put far more attention into proper recycling of plastic. Today, again, 90% of plastic is managed in the most in the most hazardous way, both for planet as well as people. So if we put all of this into a system which is required with the right investment in people as well as in space and infrastructure and technology. Technology definitely also has a role to play, but not on its own, along with people and the rest of the requirements. So imagine the kind of Swachh Bharat we can actually have.
So even today, I think waste management is largely in the informal sector. So what are the 3 steps you would want the government and the society to come up with to have at least 60% of it being in the formal sector?
The informal sector has done so much for the sector of waste management, and we just don't acknowledge it. We still, just believe that they are poor people and we are doing this great job by giving them our waste. So what we would want, first of all, to have, I talked about the entrepreneurs in the sector, and there is that entrepreneurial spirit, but they need to have that ecosystem. The ecosystem must recognize that people need to appropriate infrastructure, appropriate space, and then the operational costs for running that infrastructure. All of that needs to come together if that entrepreneur is going to have a viable, healthy business. And we're not talking profitability like we know in the regular corporate sector. We are talking about, that's why even in our tagline, we're constantly saying planet and people before profits. So a healthy bottom line so that the business can be viable, can be sustainable, and that can be possible if infrastructure, space, technology, and operational costs come together to make a healthy business.
What are the 3, according to you, what are the 3 steps, policy from the government we need for waste sector to become more profitable? Or
we already have the policies. We have the zero waste policies which are there in the municipal solid waste rules, which says no waste should go to a landfill, only 10% of waste should be residual waste. So that policy is there, and if it can be implemented, then we already have the building blocks of what is required to be done. So the policy is there. The implementation of the policy is what we require. We require as starting points, urban India to own their waste, whether it is the tech parks or whether it is any bulk generator. Putting space. Today we have spaces for food courts, for lawns, and for all of that, but we don't have appropriate space for a dedicated waste management facility in each of these locations where a lot of waste is generated. So definitely space, then infrastructure also, and that is again their part of the policy where today when you're a property developer is supposed to keep 5% of his space for waste management, and imagine that is more than adequate for us to manage all that property's waste in-house, but that does not happen. We also have the extended producer responsibility policies for plastic waste and for e-waste. Now textile waste is also going to come under EPR. Uh, and you have
So,
all the
so
large
yeah,
companies,
yeah. So
right? So
this
they
we
should
hear,
be following these
Wilma,
policies. Yeah.
Wilma, we hear this quite often that we have policies, but implementation is weak. So how can we improve implementation? What do you how can we improve implementation? Make officers
I keep
responsible?
on asking, why is it that, why are we always waiting for government to come up with that stick in order for us to
Mm,
implement? The implementing lies with each one of us. The corporate sector should be the ones putting, their best foot forward. Instead, we see them not taking on that responsibility. So if I
mm,
were
mm,
to put a spotlight on any single entity, I would say corporate India needs to step up. They can
oh,
show us what they can do.
that's a powerful line. So,
Yeah.
but I have this very ambitious vision that how can every city in Bangalore, I mean every city in India, but particularly Bangalore, can do away with landfill. So I want to see in next 5 years no landfill. Uh, so that's my vision. So how can we achieve that?
So you look at the fact that today you have residual waste, no? So you will,
Mm,
if you're looking at if you're looking at wet waste management in decentralized way, you have a combination of the decentralized, centralized for your wet waste management and also for your dry waste. So you will then end up with about, say, 10 to 15% of residual waste. And this residual waste, then only this grade of waste could go to cement kilns to be used for co-processing and to
mhm,
be used as an alternative fuel. So effectively, you then would not need any kind of a landfill. And
mm,
even if you did have smaller landfills, or if you had a landfill, in designated spots, it should be a sanitary landfill with a heavy environment cost for actually using it. So if we
mm.
were to use a landfill very, very sparingly and paid the environmental cost for that, there would be that pushback, and therefore we would manage our waste like the way it's meant to be in terms of recovering the resources rather than just putting it out in the landfill.
That's interesting. So let's move a bit to your, uh, yeah, to before I ask that question, congratulations, you were a finalist last year at the Social Entrepreneurship Award. And
Thank you.
2015 as well, you won something, right? 2015 as well, the Social Entrepreneur Award.
2015, I think we got the Namma Bengaluru Award, Social
Okay.
Entrepreneur. Yeah, that was for Bangalore.
Okay. So from your journey, what are the five lessons you want social entrepreneurs to learn from you?
First lesson is that we need to be authentic when we talk of waste management. So today waste management is about circular economy and resource recovery. So we have to be with that focus in mind, that what does it mean, resource recovery? And what does it mean to be a zero waste system? It means that 96% of resources from our waste have to be recovered.
This
So
question is beyond waste, Wilma, social entrepreneurs.
oh, so a social entrepreneur, therefore, has to be committed has to work. We all of us have a certain mandate, right, in which we come into this space, but we can't allow ourselves to get diluted in that mandate. So, because as an entrepreneur first and a social entrepreneur, there is a very it's very important for us, especially as a social entrepreneur, to look at the impact of the work that we wish to achieve. So being very close to monitor the impact, whether it is social impact or environmental impact, and not to dilute the impact because there are so many pressures of
Hmm.
investors. There are pressures of a very fragmented ecosystem. So we really have to make sure that that focus continues over a period of time. And then, of course, a social entrepreneur must be able to equally deliver services. So
Hmm.
make sure that there is the system you're constantly improving the system so that you deliver on services, even if the system is again broken, fragmented. The building of that system is something that an entrepreneur should be able to
Mm.
visualize and then put on in place the building blocks for building that system. So these are the two things that I would say. Then you
And
also
that,
have to manage your team. So
mm,
make sure that there is the team that is there, that you take along with you, and that you have the balance of making sure there is no dilution because of expectations from the team itself.
yeah. So those are three. I
Yeah,
guess
three things.
the one is which social entrepreneurs struggle with is how do you satisfy your equity or investors?
So
And
therefore, it's very important to make sure that the choice of investors are such that there is a good alignment, and also to make sure that it's not this pressure of just taking on. Today
mm,
fundraise is like you finally are giving up your equity, so we need to understand that that is a very, very big asset that is being given up for that investment that you get in
mm,
return, and that
mm.
investment cannot allow you therefore to dilute what you set out to do.
Okay,
So
last
keeping that
question. What's your
balance, yeah.
vision for next 5 years, Wilma?
So
Personally
really,
and for Saahas. Personally and for Saahas.
personally now I believe that the team is ready to actually, for me to step out and to be there as a mentor and a guiding kind of support. So I would like that the next gen and the next phase of Saahas with me at the fringe is personally what I believe is possible and what should happen. But at the same time, the market and the system for decentralized waste management is there. We are at a critical situation with respect to plastic waste, electronic waste, all kinds of waste, textile waste. So I believe Saahas Zero Waste is well placed to kind of be this organization that will continue on the path that we have had over the last 10 years, and of course move forward into growing what we have already started.
Great. Thank you so much, Wilma, for this interview, for your time, and best wishes to you and to Saahas for all the best things to come in the future.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you, and we look
Thank you.
forward to continuing this interaction at the next
Yes,
stage, perhaps. Huh?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Bye.
yeah, that was nice. So how does this come out, Benedict? This comes
Yeah. So
when?
we will do it on the first or second of every month. We do the few interviews and put it on our YouTube channel, and also do a short story in the magazine
Okay.
and connect it to the YouTube channel. So we're going slowly, rather focusing largely on uh, video content. I think people these days prefer video to text, so we try to put out a balance between the video and the text. So
Okay.
that's our we've yeah increasingly doing a lot of these interviews. So
Yeah.
hopefully it will have a bigger impact.
Yeah, yeah, nice. And I will see you, I think, on the
On
ninth,
ninth,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
ninth again, quickly since you're here, it's
yeah,
more of a social entrepreneurship session because it's a fireside chat.
yeah.
So just see that Naga doesn't go on for 5-10 minutes with on one question.
No, no, I'll talk to him and I'll give him the questions and I'll share some of that with you
Yeah,
also, so that
yeah, yeah. So
I'll
more
plan it a
it's
bit. Hmm?
yeah, yeah. So it's more for encouraging social entrepreneurs to uh,
Yes.
come into the system and current social entrepreneurs to get better at what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 See you
Okay.
around. Bye.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.